On India Upfront, within days of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump speaking over the telephone and discussing Pakistan's terror activities, Pakistan has moved to place Lashkar Chief and 2611 mastermind Hafiz Saeed in house arrest. Those pictures on your screens are from late last night when Hafiz Saeed was bundled into a car and taken to an area in Lahore, which is now totally cut off. The move has been described by Pakistan as one taken bizarrely in national interest. It's almost as if they are suggesting that the longer Hafiz Saeed stays out of jail, he's a threat to Pakistan's national security. We could have told them that years ago. Obviously, Pakistan is nervous that India might prevail upon Donald Trump, the US president, who hardly needs any encouragement, by the way, to punish Pakistan for exporting terror. That's right. Donald Trump has been saying that he is very willing to go after these elements, the Hafiz Saeed and other gangs, which are, of course, strategic assets of the Pakistani deep state. So before they fear something like an Osama bin Laden type of raid onto Pakistan soil, plucking or eliminating this individual, Pakistan has quickly bundled him into a car, and for added measure, Hafiz Saeed came out and even spoke to the press, yes, while he was under house arrest. Can you believe that? But three hard facts establish why the world, least of all India, is likely to be convinced that Pakistan is not serious about cracking down on terror. Hard fact one, Pakistan has held Saeed in house arrest earlier, and that has changed nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, after the 2611 attacks, under huge amount of pressure, both international and put by India, he was put in 8 months of so-called house arrest. But that didn't change anything, as we know, because he continues to plot terror. Hard fact two also establishes that this is a sham. Despite JUD figuring in United Nations terror entities list, Pakistan still describes its boss Saeed as a social worker. Yes, a terrorist for the world, a social worker for Pakistan. Hard fact three, that this is a sham arrest. Think about it. Pakistan's crackdown on terror rings hollow as long as it jails the doctor who led the CIA to Osama bin Laden. If it's really so serious about neutralizing these elements, putting them behind bars, taking action against them, dismantling the terror infrastructure, why is it punishing those that stake their lives, their reputations, to catch them in the first place? That's right. Three hard facts establishes that this really is a complete sham. A sham engineered rather to protect Hafiz Saeed from the world, not the other way around. Not the other way around. Let's listen to Hafiz Saeed, who miraculously began speaking to the media as he was being carted away for house arrest. Does that ever happen anywhere in the world where a criminal suddenly can send out video messages when he is being detained, put under house arrest in the interest of Pakistan's own interest, basically? Let's listen into what he had to say.
ये गुजारिश करना चाहता हूँ कि इस वक्त बैरूनी दबाव पर हुकूमत पाकिस्तान ने मेरी गिरफ़्तारी का फ़ैसला किया, जिसकी मुझे इत्तला दी गई, तो मैं ये समझता हूँ कि ये सब कुछ बैरूनी दबाव के ऊपर हो रहा है। पाकिस्तान में तो जमात-उद-दावा का कोई मसला नहीं है। इस वक्त चूँकि ट्रंप नया अमेरिका का सदर बना है और वो इस वक्त मोदी से बड़ी गहरी दोस्ती निभाना चाहता है, उनके मुश्तरका मफादात हैं। हालांकि अमेरिका के साथ हमारा मसला नहीं, मसला इंडिया के साथ है, मसला कश्मीर का है। लेकिन आज यानी मोदी इसके लिए ज़ोर डाल रहा है। अमेरिका उसके यानी उसकी दोस्ती निभाने के लिए पाकिस्तान के ऊपर दबाव डाल रहा है।
Well, there it is. That's the only little bit of truth that Hafiz Saeed perhaps has ever spoken before a television screen. Yes, he's right. The bonhomie between the Indian Prime Minister and the US President has signaled to the world, especially to Pakistan, that there is going to be little room for states sponsoring terror. And Pakistan is therefore acting in national interest to protect, quite frankly, itself from US action on the back of Indian instigation. So we decided also, in fact, to speak with Pakistan's law minister and get a sense of whether this is actually the fact. Is Pakistan so worried that the US president, with his now good friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, if he is going to act at India's instance? Muhammad Wajiullah, our correspondent, spoke to Pakistan's law minister, Rana Sanaullah. Listen to how this individual will first try to spin a very different narrative and then concede something absolutely bizarre.
This is not the first time that Hafiz Saeed has said something. Hafiz Saeed has been saying this from a very long time. What is the factor that led to his arrest now? Why did the government wake up today or yesterday to arrest him?
No. This is, I think, if this information is being given that Hafiz Saeed action against Hafiz Saeed is first time now. No, he was arrested about 3 or 4 years before when his organization was declared as a crimes organization.
Indian government has been giving you dossiers after dossiers over Hafiz Saeed, over other non-state actors. But Pakistan, there hasn't been no concrete action against it.
Never. Not a single paper of evidence of any crime against Hafiz Saeed was given by the Indian government to us. And after waiting and after seeking adjournment, after 8 months, the High Court orders his release, and he was released by the order.
The Indian government has time and again sent dossiers after dossiers. They've sent call recordings. They've sent his involvement, his links. You have his speeches that say things.
Never. They do speeches only to malign Pakistan. They do speeches for their political objects and to blame Pakistan, to criticize Pakistan. They are not interested to punish any person, Hafiz Saeed or anyone else.
Fine. So this is like the third time that Pakistan has done his house arrest. Now will a credible action be taken against him? Will a concrete step be taken against to eradicate the entire movement, the JUD organization, the Falai Insaniyat, the humanitarian organization in the garb of which he was doing his terrorist activities? What action will now be taken against him?
But the thing is that we have retained him. Now he will go to court. He will ask that there is no evidence that the government is victimizing me. I am not such a person. We will be called, we will be summoned by court, and we will say that the media is propagating against him. In words, so many other organizations are speaking against him. The court will ask, okay, if there is any evidence, please bring that. We have no brief.
Yeah, so they intend on taking him to court, which they've done earlier. It's amounted to very little because at every stage, in the context of the 2611 trial that is also being parallelly conducted in Pakistan, Pakistan has withheld important information or, according to a large number of reports, including some from within Pakistan, have engineered a weak defense or a weak prosecution, whichever way you look at it. I just want to bring in consulting editor of Times Now, Maruf Raza, into this debate. Also with us, Air Vice Marshal Abid Rao, joining us from Karachi. He's a defense analyst and Colonel retired RSN Singh. Let me first begin with you, Maruf. Does Pakistan believe that India and the world will be perhaps fooled into believing it is cracking down on terror activities by orchestrating Hafiz Saeed's house arrest? How should we look at this? House arrest or a safe house is being provided for this man?
See, Rahul, just as you had earlier in the show brought out several facts, let me sort of add on to the list of facts. In the past, Hafiz Saeed, and not just Hafiz Saeed, but his chief military deputy, that is Zikrur Rahman Lakwi, have been put under arrest. And Lakwi actually was on record to tell an international journalist that he was having a whale of a time in Adiala jail. In fact, he even sired a child there. And not only was he conducting operations through cell phones and other things while being in jail. So house arrests in Pakistan, whether in the case of Hafiz Saeed or the nuclear-scientist renegade Dr. A.Q. Khan, who is a bit of a national hero in Pakistan, but the world sees him as a top black marketeer in the nuclear business. They've been put under house arrest, but that's only for public show to the international community. Now, as the Law Minister of Pakistan has said, repeatedly that there is no evidence really against him. If there is no evidence, firstly, then why has Pakistan ordered his arrest now? Secondly, if there is no evidence, then how is Hafiz Saeed been declared as an international terrorist by the UN? If there is no evidence, why has the US put a bounty on his head of $10 million? Quite clearly, the rest of the world must be seeing something. Otherwise, all of us are probably barking up a wrong tree, is it? The second thing to understand is that in the case of Pakistan and Nawaz Sharif's brother's government, which is of Punjab, the biggest government in Pakistan, has in the past, in their budgetary allocations, given money for the Jamaat-ud-Dawa's activities. Now, Hafiz Saeed basically initiated the creation of two organizations under the Markaz-e-Dawa-e-Irshad, which then led to two outfits. The militant part of it is the Lashkar-e-Toiba, of which he is the mentor,
Yes.
just like Osama bin Laden, of whose funeral prayers Hafiz Saeed led when Osama bin Laden was eliminated. And the other is the charitable phase within Pakistan, where they run the largest set of schools. They collect money from selling hides after Qurbani, and they do a lot of justice work because they say the courts are ineffective and things of that nature. So quite clearly, Hafiz Saeed is a bit of an icon in Punjab, in Pakistan in particular, and the rest of Pakistan in general. Now for us, he is the sponsorer and the ideologue behind all terror attacks in India in the recent past, the primary ones, whether it was 26/11 Mumbai and whether it was some of the other ones like the parliament attack, etc. Now, what we need to understand from Pakistan, that do they have a track record of actually taking a man to the cleaners after the judges do decide to give a judgment against him if he is proved to be a terrorist? Pakistan has no track record. It's only the military courts that mete out justice and meted out justice against those people who were targeting military men, civilian, politicians and others. Nobody was given punishment for carrying out acts of terror in places like India. Now the US government has really made it clear that you either get serious about it or we are going to get serious, and that is where Pakistan's nervousness has come. Please remember that Nawaz Sharif's personal representative spent 9 days in Washington trying to get an appointment with the Trump administration's head honchos, but he didn't get the time of the day, whereas our NSA had a one-on-one with the NSA of America. So the Americans are very clear that either individually or collectively they will now root out terror, and this is not just about ISIS and Al-Qaeda, it is also about other terror groups, as General Mattis,
so-called good terror groups. Yes, let me bring another fact out.
You cannot sponsor terror from your land. So I'd like to ask Air Marshal Abid Rao that what is your response to all these things?
I'll just weave him in. I'll just weave him into this conversation. Colonel Arison also with us. Before that, I just want to remind you, because Maruf Raza, you said what punishment has been handed out to any of these individuals. To our knowledge, very little has been done to Hafiz Saeed or those that assisted him in carrying out the 26/11 attack. Dossiers have been given not just by us, but also American intelligence. But you know who they've acted against? They've acted against informers who have actually tipped off the CIA about the presence of Osama bin Laden. The doctor, the good doctor Shakil Afridi, is still in jail, languishing there.
Absolutely.
Because instead of punishing terrorists, they punish those that want to assist in ending terrorism. That's the dichotomy. And I want to bring you in, Vice Marshal Abid Rao. This is very strange because the Pakistani military has come out with a bizarre statement, explanation. They say it's a policy decision taken in national interest. Now, is it in your national interest? Because we know the linkages between the Pakistani army, the ISI and Hafiz Saeed. Is it in your interest to protect Hafiz Saeed from the world? Or the other way around? Protect the world from Hafiz Saeed. Explain.
Look, the reaction from the Indian palace is quite understandable. They would take the credit for something which is not a result of their doing, their request, their fear, their threat. No. If India feels pleased, by all means feel pleased about it. Pakistan is independent in taking its decisions, whether it is under American pressure, whether it is on a domestic need.
Policy decision in national interest.
The question is, this was already on our agenda. Pakistan Army, when it started Zarb-e-Azb, had too much on the plate, including those political elements in Sindh, Balochistan, which were funded by RAW. So everything could not be taken at one time. Hafiz Saeed, his organization, or anybody who runs a parallel foreign policy, who creates embarrassment for the government at international forums.
But why are you waking up now?
Oh, maybe this time
they should have actually, if you were planning any sort of action, this is well known, sir. 15 years ago, Hafiz Saeed, I have speeches that go back 15 years where he's been embarrassing you in international fora. No, Air Marshal, please. Look, let's not be selective with the facts. Don't tell me that suddenly he's become a concern for Pakistani national interests.
I understand what is your compulsion. We will do what we think is right in our own priority.
This show is based on hard facts, sir. It's called India Upfront. We are being very upfront with you, and I'm asking you a simple question.
He is not a terrorist for international fora. Nobody in the world
will ever agree. He is on the United Nations terror entities list. Let me bring it.
Yes, people will say we don't like terrorism.
Maruf Raza wants to expand on that point. Let's list some of the reasons why the international community, Maruf Raza, wants this individual thrown behind bars or extradited.
See, Rahul, let me first respond to a point the Air Marshal made, and I have respect for the Air Marshal. I have had the good fortune of meeting him also once in London. Air Marshal, sir, now you say two things. One is the army had decided to get rid of Operation Zarb-e-Azb, and when that was off their plate, they were going to concentrate on what has come to be known as the Punjabi Taliban, which Hafiz Saeed and his ilk are regarded as in some parts of Pakistan. The point at issue is, this order has come from Nawaz Sharif's government, and the civil administration seems to have issued the orders. Now, is it an order that was issued by GHQ Rawalpindi, or is it an order that has been issued by the army, the politicians? You are saying that the army has decided to confront. So, is Pakistan now finally coming together? And up to now, you were a divided house, but you continued to pretend on all our shows that you were working in national interest, as you are saying now. And the second question I want to ask you,
that is your analysis.
What is your evidence?
I look at it this way.
What is your evidence? What is your evidence, sir? What is your evidence? Sir, please listen to me. What is your evidence about India's involvement in Balochistan, with the exception of one, kangaroo court incident that you've created with this Commodore Kulbhushan? What is the evidence? And even that,
it is in Sindh.
So,
Bramda Bhukte is sitting in India.
Isn't it important
you are supporting them with arms? You are supporting them through Afghanistan. It is a known fact.
That is because, sir,
I don't have to bring the evidence here.
Where is the evidence?
Don't make this noise. We will take action.
Sir, that is because you're butchering Balochistan.
Evidence is with us.
Your own authors.
But listen,
and I can give you
let's bring this debate back.
We don't have to cry about it. We understand you do it.
You are responsible
but we will take action as our own plans.
और आप हमें blame करे जा रहे हैं.
Of course, there are. Of course, we have a lot of faults, but that does not mean that you will be given a free run.
You will not take action
to exploit a situation like you did in Bangladesh.
Let's take you at face value on that point. I want to bring in Colonel RSN. Colonel RSN, I just want to bring this question around. Our Pakistani esteemed guest says that you see we are acting in national interest. It's not the first time that Hafiz Saeed has been put under house arrest, sir. He was put under house arrest for 8 months earlier. What did it result in? He was still marching on the streets of Islamabad, Lahore, etc., ranting and raving and eulogizing terror attacks, etc. So this is, it's superfluous, this action, would you say?
Rahul, Hafiz Saeed and Maulana Masood Azhar, they and men of his ilk in Pakistan, they represent the spiritual and jihadi. They're embodiments of a spiritual and jihadi facet of Pakistan. So you may do anything, you may have any number of debates here. They are very revered figures in Pakistan. They'll continue to be so because the Pakistan military has abandoned being a professional or a secular force. Now, having said that, let me also tell you, I must focus on the latest events. As far as the Lashkar-e-Toiba is concerned and Hafiz Saeed is concerned, the Americans know every hair on the body of Hafiz Saeed. Remember, David Headley was infiltrated in the system and he rose right, he went right up till the top. So what has happened is that what Trump has done is that he has sent a totally unambiguous and a very strong signal that has rattled Pakistan. I am not too elated, nor I am sad, because ultimately, we have to resolve our own problems. Trump's men may come and go, but also we cannot deny the fact that the signal has been very, very, unambiguous. And what the Trump's record in last few days, where he has really walked the talk, that is what has rattled in Pakistan. But at the same time, let me also tell you, it has also exposed the duplicity of Obama administration in dealing with jihadi groups that are specifically anti-India.
That's an important point you've made, Colonel RSN. If Trump has shown that he is serious about living up to the rhetoric that he spewed before he got to office, then this should worry Pakistan. And therefore, I'm asking you a question, Air Vice Marshal Abid Rao, up front tonight. Is this move under which you have taken Mr. Hafiz Saeed into house arrest, is this a move to shelter him from the world, or is it a move to shelter the world from him? Simple question. Are you providing him a safe house so helicopter, gunships, etc., can't fly across in the dead of the night and lift him up from his bed and take him away, or shoot him, or eliminate him? Is that what's happening?
Well, these are the two perspectives, both suit your narrative. Look, you must realize one thing. Osama bin Laden was wanted by the Americans. Hafiz Saeed is wanted by India. So America will not please India to do anything like that.
Sir,
Pakistan has done it. Maybe.
Sir, don't live in denial. Don't live in denial. The facts are there.
No, we are not in denial. But I want you to register one thing,
made in the past,
that Pakistan will take
statements, sir, from
all
the Justice
actions in its own interest, own initiative, by setting out the priority and the timing. If you feel happy about it, well, you may be
there is nothing to feel happy about, because it's been done before.
That it is, you may.
No, how is this different from what happened, sir?
Public.
No, how is this different from what happened 3 years ago? No, I'm asking you, how is this different, sir?
So therefore,
how is this qualitatively different?
So if you
were really keen on cracking down on him, you should have put him behind bars.
I am not saying
how does house arrest?
It could very well have been on an American.
How does this house arrest differ from the one that took place 3, 4 years ago? I'm asking you, sir, explain to our viewers.
You see, I want to highlight another point. All such issues, Pakistan.
No, don't highlight another point. Answer the one I'm raising with you.
No. Because otherwise it will remain a contentious issue, whether he is your terrorist, whether he is our hero or whatever.
No, I'm not bothered about that. I'm asking you, how is this qualitatively different, this kind of action from the one that has taken place earlier and has yielded zero results? Big fat zero.
1.25 billion people. which is being flouted by your government so blatantly with total disregard. You see, this is not the right approach. The media.
No, what is not the right approach? I'm asking you a simple question. You're dancing around the subject. Simple question. Okay, let me ask Maruf Raza. Maruf Raza, for a moment, let's take our esteemed Pakistani guest at face value. I want you to answer one basic question tonight. How is this different from any other action that has been contemplated or taken by the Pakistani establishment against Hafiz Saeed in the past? Simple question.
See, Rahul, we must understand whatever the Air Marshal's assertions, but let me make a few things very clear. The first is that Hafiz Saeed enjoys an iconic status in Pakistan's mainstream public mindset. He is seen as a messiah of goodwill. He is seen as a leader that Pakistan was looking for, and all those things put together. And the army and Hafiz Saeed have a lot of skeletons in their cupboard. Now the point is also, now the Air Marshal will probably give a spin to what I'm saying, but the only other time in Pakistan's recent history that the military brass had been summoned to the National Assembly, the equivalent of Parliament in Pakistan, to answer questions from humiliated and embarrassed politicians that why Osama bin Laden was whisked away from under their noses was after Osama bin Laden's elimination. So the military brass is now not keen to be humiliated once again if Hafiz Saeed is also whisked away, either in a combined operation between India and US, or maybe just the US decides enough is enough, or maybe India, having done the surgical strikes, decides to embolden itself and take one step forward. Because please understand that all sorts of options against Hafiz Saeed are being deliberated in Delhi, including the so-called Israeli model covert option. So Pakistan needs to shield the man, because if he goes away, Pakistan will probably face riots on his streets because he's become so popular. He's certainly more popular than Nawaz Sharif, and possibly more popular than even the last army chief who enjoyed a great stature in Pakistan. So that is a thing which they are trying to prevent by giving him shelter. And Hafiz Saeed has always enjoyed, and there is data available on the internet, he has enjoyed the kind of protection that heads of state enjoy from retired and serving soldiers. So Hafiz Saeed now needs to be shielded from an eventuality which they don't want it to happen.
Is that so? Would you like to respond, Air Vice Marshal? Air Vice Marshal, respond, sir.
You see,
respond.
You see, this is a smaller portion of the bigger picture. Hate Pakistan, hate India relationship is very strong at this moment in the subcontinent. So anybody who rises against these two countries will enjoy the popular support, because this is also part of the dispute that two countries hold since 1947. So why you should take that picture rather than pleasing America and hoping for a joint action against Osama bin Laden on Hafiz Saeed or Maulana Azhar Masood. The government of Pakistan has the initiative.
Answer why.
I don't want to tell you.
This particular
future will tell you what India should have done. Future will tell you.
Don't worry about it. We witnessed in the past.
You are not ready to listen to any decent thing now. You are polluted mentally by the anti-Pakistan.
No, sir. Our patience has run out.
Anti-peace elements.
We are not going to pussyfoot around anymore.
I'm happy to be polluted. I'm happy to be polluted if it means
Mr. Modi has taken the matter to such a distance where decency does not appeal to India.
One second.
The Indian media,
without the strategic assets that you have nursed to terrorize half the world, sir.
No, there are a lot of these strategies.
I'm very happy to be brainwashed.
What have you done to your secular
I don't care. I don't care. As long as I see Hafiz
the Ghar Wapsi program,
buried,
threatening of Muslims, Christians, sects,
this will
everybody, all minorities.
Hafiz Saeed being taken out is going to be delightful news for me, sir.
Hafiz Saeed
will be delightful news. It will be due to justice for the hundreds of deaths. For the hundreds of deaths that have taken place on this side of our border, sir. The hundreds of victims of terror.
Sorry to hear to say that India is using the shoulders of America, of Donald Trump.
It doesn't matter. We'll get it
You
done.
are a five
We have
times bigger
we
country than
have
Pakistan.
no
For
compulsion,
every
sir.
moral support,
Sir, about
political
time we did
support,
it.
you rush
Hey,
to
Marshal,
other countries.
hey, Marshal, about time we did it.
This is real politics. This is real
Rahul,
diplomacy. What's
it's
the big
about
deal?
time we did it. Pakistan has done
Yes.
it for 7.
Absolutely. For centuries. In fact, since its founding. Now, one second. I just want to bring in Colonel Harrison. Colonel Harrison, what's the big deal? What's the big deal?
No, the big deal, as far as I'm concerned, is that he was a strategic asset not only for Pakistan but maybe even Obama administration. And let me tell you, he is the man. I mean, people must remember that all the Al Qaeda fellows, after they melted away from Afghanistan, many of them joined the ranks of Lashkar-e-Toiba. And then, very recently, and this I am saying with great degree of emphasis, that Hafiz Saeed was also responsible for setting up the ISIS the skeleton organization of ISIS in Peshawar. Now Trump has taken a very hard relook or review of the ISIS policy of Obama administration, and therefore it is not so simple, Rahul. It is not so simple that just because Trump has made some statements that they have gone in, they are running for cover and trying to hide Hafiz Saeed. There are many things happening, and remember one thing: Pakistan is a very strange state. They look upon Saudi Arabia, for to cater to the Islamic fundamentalist constituency and for those petrodollars. They look upon China, to provide them the borrowed muscle against India.
Yes.
And they need America to cater to the needs of all these coat and tie walas in Pakistan. So they have three legs, and I have explained to you. So therefore the tie walas at the moment are very, very worried. Because somewhere, this entire this geopolitics that Pakistan was riding on these three horses don't seem to be in alignment, and that is why there is problem. And let me also tell you, you are saying it is not a decision of the Pakistani government, may not be, because the ISI or the military intelligence establishment of Pakistan Pakistan is beyond Pakistan. People must understand this.
Okay. Let me bring in Maruf Raza. Maruf Raza, do you substantially agree?
Yeah. See, Colonel Harrison is very well informed about Pakistan. I mean, that's his core speciality from his raw days. But you see, the point to understand is that what traditionally the pacifists in Delhi saw as our kind of people in Pakistan, who they would go and engage with, and they'd say there's still a constituency for peace in Pakistan. Believe me, they are living in a state of delusion. Pakistan has long since turned the corner. What we regarded as the mainstream is now very clearly the fringe, what Colonel Harrison refers to as the coat and tie constituency. The mainstream now is looking up to people like Hafiz Saeed, and Air Marshal Ravid Rao continues to say this is a figment of our imagination. If I have his address, I'll be happy to post him a copy of Stephen Tankel's book, Storming the World Stage. Why they did the 26/11 attacks is the history of Lashkar-e-Toiba, was because when the Al-Qaeda was both in ideological and physical retreat, the Lashkar-e-Toiba saw for itself a greater, grander global role. And this is not missed out on the Americans. There is evidence with the Americans which is available. If any president or his administration decides to tap it, just like the CIA has now come out with declassified files, which they were sitting on all these years, and they continue to turn a blind eye on Pakistan's nuclear program, that it was funded and set up by the Chinese, including giving them the dummy of the Lopnor test, which they used in the Chagai test. And Pakistan keeps beating their chest saying they're a nuclear power. They are China's nuclear outstation. They're not a nuclear power. So please understand that Pakistan has a lot of secrets in its cupboard. The Americans know those secrets, and as Colonel Harrison rightly brought out, they can count every hair on the body of these terrorists. They were just waiting for some president to come around and say, kick them into their place. And this is going to begin happening.
Okay.
And believe me, I think if we don't lose our diplomatic initiative, we are in for good times.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. We'll move on. We'll move on this show because there's been another development. There's been another important and significant development today. Thank you for joining us on this particular debate. But let's just move on to the next big development that we're going to tell you about, which is going to make front page news tomorrow. And this, we're speaking, is in the context of the H-1B visa proposal that President Donald Trump has come out with. Well, today a legislation impacting H-1B visa program has been introduced. In fact, has been introduced in the US House of Representatives, making it very difficult for companies in the US to employ skilled Indian labor or any other techie from any other part of the world. This, in fact, is something that is in the pipelines because Donald Trump has been extremely protectionist of US business interests in the last 3 or 4 years and has been ranting on and on about doing something about, at some level or the other, bringing jobs back to America. And in line with that, he has made this H-1B visa proposal. We will come back to that story in just about 3 minutes. We will look at whether this is A, politic, and B, whether this actually hurts the Americans more than anyone else. We come back in precisely 2 minutes. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching India Upfront on a day when Donald Trump has actually shaken up the Indian IT industry. Stocks melting this afternoon when it was known that Donald Trump had introduced a bill, in fact, a very restricted and prohibitive bill in the US Congress, House of Representatives, to make it prohibitive for companies to outsource jobs, bring in foreign workers on H-1B visas to work in the United States and assist with the burgeoning IT sector there. This decision, when it does become law, will impact India directly. Some companies will be so badly hit, and these are Indian companies that exist in the United States, bring in cheaper but skilled Indian labor to assist in developing the infrastructure for other big US companies as support. NASSCOM has reacted. This is what the chairman of RASCOM had to tell Times Now earlier today, spelling out what it could actually mean, the implications, but also leaving the Americans with a little bit of thought.
This bill has just been introduced and there's a long journey and also an uncertain journey ahead. This is not the first bill to be introduced and it's not going to be the last. There have been several efforts. Obviously there are many aspects of the bill which are of serious concern to the industry if it does eventually pass into law. But I think there are many hurdles and barriers before that happens. For example, in the last administration, several bills were introduced, but none of them came to pass, partly because of the legislative logjam, because of political standoffs.
Well, there you have an initial reaction coming in from the Indian IT industry, the watchdog for the IT industry. Rajiv Kumar, Senior Fellow, Center for Policy Research and Founder Director of Pehle India with us. So also with us, Lord Meghnath Desai, economist. Good evening, gentlemen. Also joining us from Washington, D.C., National Security Editor of USA Today, Ray Locker. Let me first ask you, Lord Meghnath Desai, what do you make of this move? And do you think, in the long run, it might just end up hurting U.S. business?
You know, there are two things. This is not new. Obama was already worried about jobs going to Bangalore. Trump has always said that he wants to bring jobs back. So we should have anticipated it. And you know, it is never an argument to say, oh, it's going to hurt you more than it hurts me. Because he doesn't care. He doesn't care whether it hurts him. Jobs he gets back will thank him, and the people who are hurt by it may complain. But you know, this is protectionism has been always a good thing for nationalist, economic policymakers. So I think I only would say the Indian industry should not be under any delusion that this is not going to happen. This will happen, and prepare for it, because this is the coming world. Globalization is on the way now.
Okay, Rajiv Desai.
Yeah, Rahul, I think that one, I agree with Meghna that we should not take it lightly that because laws hadn't passed in the past, so it would not pass now, because now you know that the Congress and the President is on the same party and on the same page as far as this is concerned. But two other things is, one, this could encourage technologies which would lead to more offshoring, so that Indian workers don't need to go to the US, but they can actually be Bangalored. So more and more can be Bangalored, and this would probably happen.
So you believe, Mr. Kumar, that there is a way of getting around this?
Well, there could be a way of getting around it, and the second part of it is, of course, that this would hopefully encourage Indian companies not to keep working on the wage arbitrage that they've been doing for the last 2 decades, but actually get into more upstream product development, system integration, etc. Rather than just keep, in some sense, exporting cheap labor. And I just hope that this would happen in a much bigger way, and that will see the maturing of Indian IT industry, rather than us being in some, what is called the techie slaves, sort of techie mules. That's the word. And I think we should, to that extent, and we shouldn't have been surprised with it, because it was long in coming. And if the IT industry is, has been prepared, then I think it'll do us good. This bill, and I'm therefore not very concerned about it.
Okay, Ray Locker.
India.
Yeah.
Make it India now.
Make it India.
Make it India now. Make it India.
Okay, make it India. Ray Locker, what do you make of this move? Do you think it's in the long-term interests of American business?
I think, long term, it's a damaging move for the United States. It's not surprising. Donald Trump talked about this before he was elected president. He has enacted some very protectionist policies already. He's proposed more. It's not assured that this will pass Congress. There are plenty of people who are concerned about it. After all, this was included in the 2013 immigration bill that passed the Senate. It had protections for increased H-1B visas. So it's not guaranteed it gets through the U.S. Senate. It might get through the House. But still, it shows, where Trump is going and what he wants to do. He wants to bring jobs to the United States. However, there's not this pool of American workers who are ready to step in where the Indian H-1B visa workers would step in. So I think in that case, it's an illusion. And one that could have, by acting on it, one that could have a damaging effect on the U.S.-Indian relationship.
But Rajiv Kumar, some people have said skills, not salary, should have been the basis of this reform, because as we know, in the light of the STEM, or Science, Technology, Engineering and Math skills gap currently prevailing in the US, a thorough on-the-ground study of multiple factors, with skills being the primary factor, should have been the foundation really on which this bill should have been drafted.
Well, that's a should have been. But I mean, the point is that the politician always takes the easier way out and doesn't want to get into unnecessary complications. The STEM, if you make criteria there, then you get lots of complexities. You're going to be challenged, etc., etc. And the cleanest way really is the wage, the wage level. You just double it, so everybody who qualifies, then you assume that he has these higher skills, all across STEM, and this is what he's done. So in that sense, simplicity for any law, for any provision, is what we economists always advocate, and this is what is followed. So I don't think he's wrong on that. What he's wrong on is the possible impact on the US companies, their own costs, and also the spurring of technology, which will mean greater outflow, to offshore sites.
And a relationship that we've nurtured, Lord Meghnad Desai. There's worry there too.
Well, our relationship with Americans is we are the supplicants. We may be helping them, but we are the supplicants. They are capital, we are labor. And so there's never that symmetry between those two. The thing is that American higher education system, not the secondary school, is much better. And it could easily rise to the challenge and train people. For example, in mathematics, in the last 20 years, many more Chinese have gone to America and enriched the Chinese, the U.S. mathematics faculties. Now, I think, as Rajiv is saying, what we really have to do in India is basically get out of this mentality and prepare our own upstream industries and compete. Because I'm sure we can compete. And that's where we should go.
We needed to develop a dependence on us, in the sense not just merely be in the commodity market, in this case the labor commodity market, which is what's happened. So you are easily replaceable. So you don't have a leverage here, and that's what you need to develop. That's what our IT companies need to develop. Hopefully, with the government and the industry working together.
Well, let's not also forget, Mr. Locker, that most US-based Fortune 500 organizations are deeply invested and dependent on IT services providers using H-1B visas to source skills. Let's not forget that implication of this particular bill. First of all, I want to ask you, how long is it going to take for this bill to become an act? And secondly, what does it do for the bottom lines and the health of some of these Fortune 500 organizations?
Well, there's a number of things that can happen. First of all, we don't know when this bill is going to get passed. If it does get passed, it could be changed, it could be killed, it could be filibustered in the Senate, so there's still that. The effect on U.S. companies is they're going to have a problem getting skilled workers from abroad. And as the previous speaker mentioned, India is a supplier of many of these workers. So if that flow of workers aren't coming in through H-1 visas or B visas or something else, these companies need to find an alternative labor source. And that source isn't coming from U.S. people. It's not like the auto industry where there are unemployed auto workers in Michigan and Indiana, for example, who might get jobs back if we don't send jobs to Mexico. There's not a pool of idle, computer workers or IT workers sitting around who would get jobs just because we didn't bring in H-1B workers from India. So that causes a problem for them. What do U.S. companies do? They're going to have to go somewhere else to find that talent. They may send the jobs not in the United States, but just directly to India and hire a company there to do that work. And then the alternative for the Indians is, as one of the speakers mentions, to get upstream companies to do everything that U.S. companies do now. And then U.S. companies lose out on all of that. And there really shouldn't be any reason why Indian companies can't do that already. They have the talent right there. So the problem for the United States is if we limit H-1B, we limit the opportunity to get those skilled workers to the United States where they contribute to society, they pay taxes, they help the joint U.S.-Indian relationship because they understand America and help us understand India better. So there are many risks to this law, which is by no means guaranteed to pass.
Is building a moat the way out? Many countries have suffered, sir, in the past, Lord.
We have lived in India through a long period of protectionism, import substitution. When a country is nationalist, it's never a good argument to say, don't do this, it'll hurt you, you must be generous and liberal and open. Look at UK. UK has got Brexit, it now wants to control immigration. Everybody tells them they shouldn't do it. But countries get into this sort of madness. So I think we have to more or less prepare ourselves that this is going to happen despite the fact that it may hurt the US. Now, American companies will lobby to try and modify or get the bill killed. That is true.
You think that's going to happen?
Yeah.
But
That's
that is they're definitely going to do that. But otherwise, they might relocate to, say, Ireland. And maybe our people will have to go to Ireland rather. Ireland seems to be the most near base because it is much more open than the UK is.
Should we be worried? Should we be worried, Mr. Kumar, of this individual, President Trump, who also doesn't believe in the normal?
No, I don't think we should be worried. I think we should, address the concern that he's raising at the moment.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we should also kind of reciprocate in the same coin, as it were. Unilateral liberalization is what I propose for India, but much more than liberalization, what I propose for India is to really get your house in order lift yourself from your bootstraps.
So you would advise the Prime Minister not even to raise this issue when he meets President
not at all.
Trump? Not at all.
But to raise the issue of the fact that they will lose billions of dollars for the lack of the totalization agreement, where our companies pay for all the social security, but we are always bringing our workers back and they would not get that money back. So the fisc will lose there, and raise the concern that look, the American companies are going to become globally uncompetitive, and therefore just put it to him that what he might be doing is sort of cutting the nose to spite the face.
Okay, cutting the nose to spite the face. That's the bottom line. We leave it at that. Lots more coming up on the News Hour. Stay tuned.